All right, let's dive right in. We're going to unpack a pretty unsettling idea today that the food we eat, especially the ultra processed stuff, might be doing a lot more than just adding to our waistlines. It could be changing our bodies on a genetic level. Seriously? So I have to ask you, is your lunch rewriting your DNA? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But this isn't fiction. We're talking about the actual chemical instructions that run your body and how what you eat could be scrambling that code. We're calling this genetic sabotage. And yeah, that sounds super dramatic. But when you see how these foods actually work inside our cells, you'll get it. This isn't just about bad nutrition anymore. It's a hidden threat. First things first, let's be crystal clear on who the villain is here. We're talking about ultra-processed foods, or UPFs. And look, these aren't just foods with a couple of extra ingredients. They're industrial formulations. You know the ones, packaged snacks, frozen dinners, sugary sodas. If the ingredient list is a mile long and full of words you can't pronounce, you're probably holding a UPF. For years, the conversation about junk food was all about calories, fat, and sugar. That was pretty much it. But what we're learning now is that the real danger is way more subtle. It's about the chaos those synthetic ingredients create deep inside your cells. So how does this actually work? Well, it comes down to a process called DNA methylation. And don't worry, it's simpler than it sounds. Just think of your genes as having little on-off switches. A healthy diet keeps the good, protective genes switched on and the bad, disease-causing genes switched off. But UPFs, they seem to sneak in and start flipping those switches the wrong way, silencing the good guys and waking up the bad ones. Okay, so that's the theory. But what about the proof? Let's turn to a huge study that came out of Brazil. It looked at the real-world impact on adults, and what it found were changes happening way before anyone would ever feel sick. The researchers studied two groups of women. The first group got around 14% of their daily calories from UPFs. Not great, but, you know. Then there was the second group. They were getting a massive 45% of their daily calories from this stuff. A huge difference. And the results? Honestly, they're shocking. For the women in that high-intake group, the scientists found signs of genetic disruption in, get this, 80 different regions of their genome. 80. That is a staggering number of genetic switches getting flipped in the wrong direction. And we're not talking about minor genes here. Two that really stood out were REPIN1, which controls how your body stores fat and responds to insulin, your core metabolism. The other was FOXP1, a major player in your immune system and brain function, which has been connected to things like autism and even some cancers. But here's the part that really got me. These women, they were at a healthy weight. Their blood sugar, their cholesterol, all totally normal on paper. The genetic damage was happening completely under the radar, building up for years before any of the usual red flags of disease would ever show up. Now, if that's what's going on in adults, you can imagine that the story gets even more serious when we look at kids. So let's pivot to another major study, this time from Europe, that looked at the threat to the next generation. This study showed that kids are eating a ton of this stuff, but it really varies by country. In Colombia, it's about 19% of their diet. But jump over to the UK, and that number skyrockets to 57%. And in the USA, it's a mind-boggling 66%. 2/3 of a child's entire diet is coming from these industrial foods. And just like in the adult study, researchers found those same genetic on-off switches were being tampered with in children. The genetic hotspots getting hit were absolutely critical systems. Things like thyroid function, which controls growth and energy, liver health, and even the body's own ability to repair its DNA. One gene in particular, called ATF7, really stood out. The more UPFs a child consumed, the more this gene was altered. So why should we care about this one gene? Well, because other research has linked changes to this exact gene with neurodevelopmental problems and long-term metabolic issues. Okay, I know that's a lot, and it's pretty alarming, but the story absolutely does not end here. The good news is, now that we know what's happening, we can actually do something about it. So let's talk about how to break free and take back control. The experts lay out a really clear 5-step plan. 1. Revamp your kitchen. Get the junk food out of sight, out of mind. 2. Fortify your meals. Pack them with protein and fiber to keep everyone full and satisfied. 3. Upgrade your favorites. Swap soda for sparkling water with fruit. Simple changes. 4. Become a label detective. Short ingredient lists with real food are your best friends. And 5. Plan intentionally. A little bit of planning for meals and snacks makes a world of difference. There's this quote from the research that just perfectly sums it all up. Food isn't just fuel, it's information. It says that every single meal, every snack, is a message we're sending to our cells, and especially our children's cells, telling their genes how to act.
So we'll end with this. The food on your plate is having a constant conversation with your DNA. After everything we've talked about today, the question isn't just what you're eating, it's what message are you sending? What do you want your plate to say?